Hello and welcome to RamsTalkPodcast. We're here today after a pretty impressive 3-0 win for Derby against Stoke. And we're also here after a 1-0 midweek win against Chesterfield. It's been a pretty good week, and I've got three lads today that are quite excited to talk through the football with me. So first is Adam Titley. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. Quite good after two back-to-back wins, to be honest. So, yeah, enjoying it.
Yeah, you were telling us just before you almost didn't get in on Saturday.
No, just tickets didn't come through. Had a mare at the turnstile. Managed to get in, just about.
That's good stuff. Good stuff. We've also got Callum Boocock. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you, mate. Good, thank you. It was a great afternoon, although the weather didn't obviously treat us well. But I thought the football and nostalgia was probably the best it's been for a while.
Yeah, it was, and we'll get onto that a little bit later on. And last but certainly not least, Chris Matthews-Redwood. How are you, Chris?
Hello, mate. All good, thanks. I think I'm now officially excited for the start of the season. I've enjoyed the break, but after yesterday, it feels let's get going now.
Well, exactly. And I mean, we had a conversation with Jamie, who's often on the pods, and he was very, very weirdly, pessimistic about yesterday. I see it in a completely different light. I thought the first 45 minutes was some of the best football I've seen us play in years. I've got written down here 45 minutes of Barcelona-esque football. I mean, Adam, we'll go through all three goals. First goal, set piece. We don't score those. What was happening there?
We don't. I mean, there's been many away games when we've needed a goal and we've got a free kick up corner, and you always say never score from a set piece. It's a classic Derby thing, but with the tall players that we've got, maybe we'll see a few more goals from him. Sonny Bradley, Curtis Nelson, all over 6 foot. And maybe finally we'll have a couple of tall players who can get on the end of some set pieces.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I mean, I've watched it back a couple of times. It is one of the worst headers I've ever seen. It's got shades of James Collins versus Oxford, and he tried to sort of glance it.
Bullet header.
Yeah, heads it onto the defender and puts it in, but it's a goal all the same. And Callum, I mean, we saw set pieces all day. We had Joe Ward taking them. We had Conor Hourihane taking them. Two players with brilliant deliveries. We can do in-swingers on each side now. It looks like an avenue that Paul Warne really wants us to target, and one that we can actually use now.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we've been crying out for what, 2-3 seasons. We've not been a threat from set pieces in probably the last 2 or 3 seasons. I mean, Paul Warne's advocate for goals from all places. It doesn't have to be from your number 9. And the fact that we've got now, as Adam was saying, two. If Cashin grew a little bit, it'd be 3. But I mean, he can leap, to be fair to him. But yeah, no, you got 3 really good defenders in the air, and as I say, having that threat just means that if we're not on song on the pitch, it just means you can go and win a game in another way.
Well, exactly. And Chris, I mean, watching that goal back, one thing as well that Derby haven't done in recent years, you remember we had that weird time where we had all those different set pieces. I remember Shay Given being like, oh, yeah, we tried like the conga line and everything like that. It was nice to see some actual movement in the box, wasn't it? I think last year we were quite static when it came to putting balls in, and we very rarely scored. And we had 3 or 4 players that were free pretty much every time.
Yeah, the movement was really good. It reminded me, remember when England started, I think it was the 2018 World Cup, they all ran in a line. I thought that was, it was a bit of it was really good to see, actually, because as you said, last season, it was a bit standing like statues and just hoping for the best, let's be honest. But to see some movement and to see some proper pace on the balls being whipped in as well. Because it doesn't take a rocket scientist. If you just chip the ball in and lob it in, the keeper's going to get it. You can't really attack it, and any header you do get, you've got to generate the power. So no, it was good to see yesterday, and hopefully he's going to do a bit more work on that, because set pieces, I think, this season will be key to get those goals when we aren't playing brilliantly. But yeah, as a bullet header from Curtis Nelson. No luck whatsoever, but yeah, it was really good, really good.
No, I mean, talking about actual bullet headers, before we get onto it very quickly, we've got a comment from Jamie saying, don't get carried away. We're just not going to listen to you, mate. And we've got an even better comment from Derby County Fan 32, who says James Collins is the next R9. And after that header yesterday, I think he might be right, because if we move on to that second goal, I mean, everything about the goal was brilliant. Collins picking the ball up, playing it back to Bird. Bird plays a delightful pass down the line to Ward. Ward waits for options, rolls it back. Corey Smith, of all people, whips in one of the best crosses I've ever seen, and a James Collins bullet header into the bottom corner. I mean, Adam, we've seen already Collins sort of finding that space, getting in the box. It's what we want from him, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we mentioned a couple of weeks ago about what is Collins best at in terms of attacking in that box. Is it arriving late? Is it waiting in the area for a poaching like goal? And it seems to be arriving late with the pace of Mendes-Lang up front. He can drop deep if he likes. He doesn't have to be always pushing the line. And we saw it yesterday, a brilliant move. And he seems to have found his sort of mojo in that middle, really, I think, waiting for the ball in. He just seems to find space on his own in the middle. We saw it at Chesterfield, he was unmarked. And he seemed to do it again against a good Stoke side, really.
Yeah, and you mentioned there a good Stoke side. We made them look decidedly average, didn't we? And one of the things that we were speaking about before we started recording was Max Bird. I mentioned there he played that pass through to Joe Ward, and he played a little bit further forward. He did the same against Chesterfield, won the penalty within a few minutes. His energy, his strength, as Callum said, he just seems a different player. I mean, I don't know how to say it, Callum. He looks really special, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looks a cut above. I mean, Paul Warren kind of said it in his post-match on Rams TV. He said anything that went well today went through Max Bird, and you can kind of see that. And we were saying just before we went live, it looks like he's bulked up a little bit, which he needed because he was kind of getting pushed off the ball a little bit too much last season in League One. So, I mean, it's just all positive going into the season. Having, I think all three in the midfield had a really good game yesterday in that first half. So having someone, as I say, it doesn't need to be the front two doing the press. It can be Max Bird initiating that, and he's fit enough and he looks fit to initiate that press, which Paul Warren wants.
And Chris, I mean, Callum mentions there, he talks about the fitness of the players, and they look fit, don't they? I think for the first time it's the first pre-season we've had in a long time, isn't it? I mean, last season was obviously cut short because of admin, so we had to start a few weeks late. Season before that, again, a few weeks late. We had barely any players, and it's the first season in a long time where our managers, managed to get in, and Paul Warren's obviously got a good reputation with his pre-seasons. Don't you think the players look really fit and really ready for the season already?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what's got me excited a bit early yesterday. It felt the way they came out of the traps, it felt like the first game of the season, which was really good. And I felt the starting lineup from Warren was, barring maybe one or two, I think that's how we're going to line up against Wigan. So yeah, it was really good. I don't think we can underestimate how good that Spanish trip was. I mean, it looked like an absolute nightmare for anyone there, but it was really good to see the players really working hard. And it was like that had been planned from February, March time. And that sort of planning is something we haven't had for a long, long time. As you mentioned, last few pre-seasons, it's just been a bit manic, but now there's a proper plan in place and you can see the performances building and getting better, which is exactly what we want. Salford wasn't brilliant, but the heat was just ridiculous. Chesterfield, it was starting to build, and then yesterday you sort of saw the plans coming into fruition, which was really good. So yeah, I think no one can underestimate how good a proper pre-season has been, and Warren's an expert at fitness, and I think Max Bird is a key example of someone who finished last season a little bit low on confidence and a bit skinny, and now he's bulked up a bit, and I think he's ready to be a really key part for us next season.
Yeah, well, and something you mentioned there, Chris. I mean, obviously that Salford game was a difficult one. They'd just come off the back of being hammered by Warne for a week or two. But you talk about the Chesterfield game and Adams, something that it's a little bit of a change of topic before we get onto the third goal. But you look at that Chesterfield game and we came out of that and Paul Warne said, the players didn't do what he wanted them to do. But one thing that he did pick up on, and I picked up on when watching, was when we made all those subs towards the end, we brought all those young lads on. We probably had one or two first team players on the pitch, and those lads gave everything to preserve that 1-0 lead, like absolutely everything. And you could see, the mentality that's already, coursing through the first team, but it doesn't seem great that it's coming through to the academy lads too.
Yeah, I think it is great. I think when we see players like Max Bardell come on, who have really been quite direct when coming forward, and I think it's good that we've got players that are hungry to impact a game, not afraid to almost go out and play the risks. Because in that Chesterfield game, we'd gone 1-0 up. I thought it was a pretty even game, or maybe even Chesterfield edged it in terms of the play.
Yeah.
But when the academy players came on, they were fantastic at driving forward, and they seem to almost want to prove themselves to Paul Warne in a way. As much as the first team players do week in, week out, these academy players almost wanted to put the extra bit of performance in. And yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great that we talked about a few weeks ago about the mentality of the academy and the setup that we have now. And it's very early on, but the players that we do currently have are coming through and trying to make their mark on the first team and aren't afraid to go that extra mile and risk it.
Exactly. It's exactly what you want, isn't it? From a club that's rebuilding the academy, for the lads to come in and play the way they are is really good. And one thing, Callum, as well, on James Collins, on his goal, is that first pass gets fired into his feet. I can't remember who played it now. It might have been Sonny Bradley. Hammers it into his feet and he sort of takes it, lays it off to Max Bird. Now, last season, we didn't have a lot of that. We ended up playing it long, relying on McGoldrick's hold-up abilities and ability on the ball. And Collins seemed to really struggle. And it was the same against Chesterfield. The ball was sort of coming over to him and bouncing off him. I remember at one point, he probably tried to pass the ball about 3 times in 1 minute and messed it up all 3 times. And I was there with my head in my hands like, please, James, you can do it. But yesterday, we played it into his feet. He seemed to pop it off either side, make those runs into the box, and eventually that's how he scored. Do you think that's something that we can take advantage of playing against teams at Pride Park this season?
Yeah, I mean, it's the art of having your back to goal as a number 9, and it's not an easy thing to do. It's something that if it's not natural, you have to work on it, and it looks like it has been worked on with him, and it looks like we're coming to see the fruitions of that. I mean, when you look at the weaknesses of Collins, it is that first touch, or it was that first touch. It was that link-up play that we then, like you said, relied on McGoldrick last season. And it looks like we don't have to do that anymore. I mean, like I said, he was popping it off. He was obviously integral to that second goal when we played it black. And then Max Bird was able to put that through ball to Joe Ward. I mean, when you look at him as a whole, it was that one little thing that was missing from him. It was just that link-up play, that be able to hold up the ball. And especially as a number 9, you need to be able to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it helps as well, Chris, doesn't it, that he had a player like Mendes-Lang next to him. I know we had a little bit of a discussion about his future playing up front for Derby last week, but I thought he did really well and he stretched the pitch and he got beyond Collins quite a lot, and that opened up Collins to have a little bit more space. I mean, as we saw with the third goal, he ends up winning the ball back. It was the second time he's won the ball back and either created or almost created a goal. Plays it to Max Bird, a little back heel, and Mendes-Lang hammers it into the bottom corner. I mean, again, we spoke about it last week. I know a couple of you guys didn't think he's got a chance as a striker, but he looked good yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, he's physical. He always has been, and I think he can do a job up there. I still don't think he's a natural striker. I think he's much better suited coming in from the wing. Just on that second goal, by the way, the Collins header, that is exactly what Lewis Dobbin should have done against Shrewsbury, if you remember.
That's
when he
so
headed it
oddly
straight.
specific.
That is because that was a huge miss, wasn't it? When the keeper made a miraculous save when he was headed straight at him. That was the sort of header we needed. It was a brilliant header. But yeah, that third goal. Was it Bird who laid it off to him?
It was, yeah.
It was quality, wasn't it? It was brilliant to watch. And yeah, I think Mendes-Lang, if he can start the season how he started last season, but carry on from that, hopefully we can get a lot out of him this season. I still don't think he's a natural striker. I still think we need someone in alongside Collins. But
Definitely.
while he's playing as well as he is, then yeah, why not? But I think he's better suited out on the right wing, to be brutally honest.
Yeah, the problem is we don't usually have one of those.
No, I know.
Which is changed it a little bit, but I know where you're coming from, mate. I understand. But Adam, I mean, one of the criticisms of Mendes-Lang last season was his finishing towards the end of the season. And to be honest, looking back, I think he was just a player completely devoid of confidence. He came back from that hamstring injury and he was playing in a team that was losing a lot more than it was before. And he just seemed like he was rushing, he was panicking. He's played for Guatemala. Every single Derby Facebook post is now littered with Guatemalans, which is great. It makes me laugh quite a lot. He seems to have refound that confidence again. And that finish, I mean, the way he struck it's a confident finish to sort of wrap your foot round it like that. He could have blasted it. He could have rushed it, but he didn't. He took his time. He picked his spot and he put it in the corner. Do you hope that, I mean, I know Chris already mentioned it. Do you think and hope that he'll be able to carry that on throughout the season and sort of go one step further than he did last season?
I mean, it's an if, but if he can, then I don't really see a better player than him who can run at players in this division like he can. But if I'm using my head, probably not. Mendes-Lang has struggled to find that sort of form throughout his career. I think that's always been the big thing that people talk about is his form. How long can he keep it up for? But I think with Paul Warne saying he wants to add a couple more attacking additions and us talking about how well he's playing at the moment, hopefully we'll have backup options for him when he does dip out of form and he can come on more of an impact role or move around in a position. I'd love for him to carry on his form. We've mentioned his finish. It was confident. It was one of a player who almost felt like he had played up front for quite a while. He just understood where the goal was, and it was a typical bent finish into the corner of the goal, bent it with his foot into the side of the net. I think he's in great form. I think he should start up front alongside Collins if we don't bring in another striker that's of the same level as them two. Can he carry it on for the whole season? To be honest, no. I'm not sure whether he can. No. I think around February, March time again. Players dip in and out of form. It's completely natural. Yeah. And I think a player of Mendes-Lang's ability, when we see what he can do, I think we see it more of as we talk about it more when he dips in and out of form rather than a player who's not as goal scoring as him. But I do think he's going to be a massive player for us this season, especially if he's playing in that role up front.
Yeah, and you mentioned there, Adam. I mean, Paul Warne came out and said he wants another number 9. He wants another number 10 coming in. And I mean, our forward options. I know we talk about we don't have a striker, but with the formation we're playing, the attackers we've got Collins, we've got Washington, who we've not seen yet. We've got Tom Barkhazen, who's been injured for the whole of pre-season, pretty much, thanks to Matlock Town, and obviously Mendes-Lang himself. And then we've also got Louis Sibley as well. And Callum, I mean, where does that leave Sibley? He's missed the whole of pre-season with a calf injury. Warne's obviously looking for another number 10. You got Max Bird, he sort of played more as an 8, didn't he, Bird? But, if he wants us another 10, is he going to play him slightly deeper in that role that Bird was in? Where does it leave him? We've said already, haven't we? This has got to be his season, but what's going to happen?
I mean, I think we said either last week or it was in the group chat or whatever, but it was, for me, Thompson and Sibley were the two that if they didn't break out this season, they would probably move on. And I think Thompson's run the critics. I think he's been immense at left wing back in the role that he doesn't really know. And I think Sibley could be a casualty of that unfortunate injury that he's picked up, because other players have gone ahead of him now in the pecking order. Obviously, Warren's looking elsewhere for a number 9 and number 10. I can't see him going at a left wing back position. I can't see him breaking into the midfield 3, maybe as a bench option. But I am worried that his time at Derby could be coming to a close, whether that's in the summer period or in January.
Well, yeah, and we'll see. And like you said about Liam Thompson, he's been class, hasn't he? Really impressed with him again yesterday. I thought against Chesterfield, he was probably our best player, bar Bird. He's, that low centre of gravity, he's using it to his advantage, isn't he? And I think in those wider positions, he can do that a lot more than if he's playing in the middle. So, yeah, it's good to see him doing well. I know literally all of us doubted him at the start of the season, and now he's proved all of us wrong. So, yeah, let's hope Sibley can do the same thing when he's back, if he gets a look in. And before I come to you, Chris, we've just got this comment from Ryan Jono, who says, do you think Warren's saying we can't invest the money we got for Knight and Bielik was worrying, or do you think he's playing games to make sure we don't overpay for a player that commands a fee? Now, I personally think a bit of both. Now, I have a feeling we don't want to spend that money. You've seen teams spend money in this league and struggle. Sunderland, obviously, I know they went up eventually, but it took them a really long time, and they spent a lot of money considering the league we're in. What do you reckon, Chris? Do we not have the money? Are we peasants again? Or is this Warren playing yet more mind games to try and get people to lower their prices a little bit?
Possibly. I mean, I think on Bielik, that money was spent a long, long time ago. That's been going on for ages, hasn't it? He's not been a Derby County player for 2 years now, pretty much. And yeah, I think that money went a long, long time ago. Look, realistically, we were never going to spend 2 million on Clark Harris. We were never going to spend 2 million on Ladapo. It was always going to be a case of being shrewd. And let's face it, Warren's summer signings so far, I think, have been really good. We haven't had the chance to assess Washington yet, but if Warren likes him and thinks he can do a job, then I'm all behind him. I do think we are a couple of players short, but I think there are things going on in the background that perhaps we don't know about. I think if we're going to be spending money, I think it will be 200, 250k absolute max. We're not going to be going into the millions, are we? But yeah, I think just Derby fans need to, sit back and realise we're in safe hands with our owner, with our manager. The signings so far have been really good, really positive. It's exactly what we needed. So yeah, let's not panic yet. There's still 2 weeks to go, and if we started the season tomorrow based on what we saw yesterday, we'll be doing all right.
Yeah, wow, that's good, Chris.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that. That was motivational.
He did say 3 weeks ago. He is positive now. He's positive.
He's a new man.
Absolutely.
Just on that, I think Bielik, we've still got an instalment to pay, haven't we? So I mean that.
No, we don't.
Is that it now?
Everything was paid. All debts were wiped when David Klaus took over. So thankfully,
so, I mean, there's still a coop of money that we needed to redig. So, like I said, I think it's just going to the bank.
Straight into Warren's pocket. Yeah. And another interesting point, actually, that Derby County Fan 32 is literally the most committed follower of this channel. So thank you very much, mate. He's put Sonny Bradley must be captain for me. He was really good yesterday. Now we'll get onto his performance. But one thing I wanted to, I guess, come to you with, Adam, is I thought Sonny Bradley be captain from the second he walked in. I thought, he's a leader. Even against Chesterfield, it was pretty much his first game. He looked class. Absolutely brilliant yesterday. That block with that shot that almost took his head off towards the end was brilliant. But we saw at the end of the game, and we've seen a lot of things recently. It seems to be Conor Hourihane who's sort of leading everything. He gave Fozzie that shirt, didn't he? I mean, it's starting to look a lot like Hourihane's going to be captain. Very experienced player. He's played at the highest level. He's played internationally. I mean, obviously it's pure speculation, but if Hourihane was captain and Sonny Bradley was vice captain, would you be upset?
I don't think I would be, to be honest. I think I think maybe Paul Warne likes that level head as captain. Maybe not the most talkative player on the pitch from Conor Horan, but listen, I'm not down there playing alongside him. Another statement from me that I'm nowhere near good enough to be a footballer. But I think at the Matlock game before Sonny Bradley had signed, or it might have been just after, I can't remember,
Just
to
before,
be honest. Just before. Conor Horan looked like a leader. It was a pitch level game to watch from as a fan, and Conor Horan for me looked like he was marshalling that team quite well, and you saw a different side to him, I thought, and I think we've started to see that with him having the captain's armband. I think there'll be many occasions where Bradley is given the armband throughout the season, obviously with him being captain at Luton, if I'm correct there, not wrong in saying that. But I think Bradley will grow into his role at Derby a lot more than what we're seeing him right now. I think this is definitely the early stages of his time with us, and I'm not too upset Horan's got the captain role. I think he's gonna do all right at setting us up, and I think there'll be other players out there, other leaders that'll do the job as well, depending on their area, defence, midfield, attacking. And what I think is good is that we've got a player who's captain who's gained promotion before. We've got other players in the team who aren't captain but are vocal and have gained promotion before as well. I think I said this before. We need promotion winners in our team. And we need some characters who are going to put in nasty tackles and not be the nice guys, I would say, that Derby County have had in the past, maybe. That maybe just those extra challenges need. And I think that's why Sonny Bradley probably hasn't been given the captain's armband, because I think he is more of the... I'm not saying he's not a nice guy, but I think there's going to be some solid challenges in there from that are going to warrant a few cards. And maybe it's just best that Conor Horan has that armband to marshal the team.
Yeah, it did make me laugh yesterday when I can't remember who it was decided to murder their number 9 as he ran through, and Bradley went over and tried to pick the bloke up, and the bloke went mad, didn't he? He was swinging his arms around everywhere, and I think that winding up will do a good job. It's there's that clip, isn't there, where the guy pushes him and he's sort of going back like that. It's he's the sort of player we need. But on Horan, Callum, I mean, I think he looks so much fitter, like so much fitter. And he's picking up the ball, and him, Bird and Smith, who we've not mentioned much today, I thought that first half they were excellent. Like the three of them, the balance between them. There were some times when they were just playing triangles between the three of them, and the Stoke players couldn't get anywhere near them. And, he just looks ready this season, doesn't he? Maybe he was just unfit last season. Maybe that's why it didn't work so well. Maybe all the players were just unfit. But he looks ready, doesn't he, Horan? He looks ready for football.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at last season compared to this season, Warne was still trying to instigate his philosophy into a team that obviously, like I said, he didn't really know for a period of time. Tried to get obviously Saturday, Tuesday. There's not much time on the training ground to get them fit. So as I say, getting him into a pre-season camp with Paul Warne and his team has seemed to have done the absolute world of benefit to Conor Horan. And like you say, with Adam and yourself, it wasn't the ready-made captain. I probably didn't expect it, but like you said, he's a promotion winner. He has a level of not ability, but a level of nous in how to get promotion, in how to get wins. And when you look at teams within the league, the teams who go up have those dotted around this starting 11. And when you're looking at Bradley, looking at Horan, even Ward, when he obviously was going for promotion, stuff like that, it's teams who, the binning teams obviously, who've been going at the promotion chances and stuff like that. So Conor Horan for me is going to be within the starting 11 every single week, and unless he gets injured. So, and it's obviously nice to see, considering the amount of rumours over the last few months that him and Warne fell out. Yeah.
I remember someone told me that he'd like knocked out an academy player. So I'm like, he just hasn't, has he? I'd like to see that. It's not quite as good as Paul Warne pushing Liam Thompson in the pool and getting sacked, but it's certainly up there. That made me laugh. I was at my brother's graduation and I opened my phone, and within 1 hour, Paul Warne had been sacked and killed.
Yeah.
It's like...
But that's Derby County Twitter for you, mate.
It is. Yeah, terrible place. Chris, you've been in the private chat. You got something you want to say about the captaincy? The floor's yours, my friend.
I think, Sonny Bradley is a prime candidate for captain, as everyone can see. But I think we need to remember this isn't Football Manager. You don't just give your most experienced player the captain's armband. The captaincy. Captain's armband, there is a lot of pressure associated, and being the captain of Derby County, I know we're in League One, but it's a big job. And personally, I'd be much happier if Sonny Bradley was just more concentrated on being in that back three, being the leader of that back three, rather than the pressure of the captain's armband. You look what it did to Bird last season. He was captain a lot, and I think he shrunk a bit under the pressure. And I think we just need to leave Bradley alone and let him do his thing. And I know it's a really corny Sunday league game phrase, but we need as many captains out there as we can, not just one. And I think people like Fozzie, like Bradley, obviously Hurahan, if he gets the armband, Ward, they're all going to be pivotal to next season. I really don't think it matters too much. And I don't think the Derby fans should be too hooked up on who actually ends up wearing that armband next season.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm glad you put it in the chat now. But yeah, Bradley, he was immense yesterday, wasn't he? If he can keep playing like that, I think we'll probably be all right this season. And another player that I kind of wanted to talk about, he came on at left wing back. Now, that's not his position. I think you could probably tell pretty quickly that it was his position. But Kane Wilson sort of made his proper debut, I guess, for Derby at Pride Park. I think he tried really hard. He looked like a player who hadn't played football in a year or so. And I mean, at the start, I was like, "Oh God!"
Like Martin Waghorn, then, really. Wasn't it?
Well, yeah. But yeah, he came on. I was, "Oh God, he's struggling." But he really grew, I thought, into the game. And there was one time where he went on that run, and for some reason tried to outside foot cross it when he was through on goal. And he went on another run and sort of nutmegged the guy and got killed for it. I think he looks like a player who's not played in a while, Adam, but he looks like a player who's also got potential, doesn't he?
Yeah, and not in a pretentious way when I say this, but I'm almost glad he's come in and he needs a bit more time, because I think at the moment we've got such a competitive first 11 and a first 11 that could, like Chris said, go in and walk into the game tomorrow if the season started tomorrow. I'm almost glad he might be arriving late, if that makes sense, in terms of when he's at his peak. We've talked about Mendes-Lang dipping in and out of form, and I've always said we need a bigger squad than what we have, and I've always banged on about getting loan players in and getting the backup players in. But if we've got players that can hit form at a different time to the main 11, then that's going to be absolutely crucial. And a player of Kane Wilson has so much potential. I really rated him when he was at Bristol City, and obviously had a great season with Forest Green Rovers when they were in League Two. And he's got so much potential, and we saw flashes of that. But I think it's good if he gets almost drip fed into that starting 11, some appearances off the bench, and then hopefully he'll come into form when maybe some of the older, more experienced players are sort of lacking fitness and need a bit of a break. But I think he's got a lot of potential to go quite a long way in that team, especially if we play with wing-backs.
Okay, imagine being a League One left-back and you've defended against Joe Ward for 70 minutes. And then the board goes up and Ward comes off and Kane Wilson comes on. I think you'd be like, what have I done to deserve this?
I'll be doing that to my gaffer, mate. I'll be just like, bring me on.
Get yourself straight off. He's a player that can definitely do better than he is now. Like you said, I think he's not played football for a while. He's got some growing to do. And yeah, I'm sure it'll be good. But yeah, we're in a lucky position, aren't we? It's funny because we weren't saying this last week, but we're in a lucky position where we've got we're not reactionary at all here, but we've got quite a good team. Quite a good team. We only beat Stoke 3-0, but I guess we should probably talk about it as we sort of come towards the end of the episode. The 4 pensioners. We can't go this episode without talking about them. I love the halftime stuff. I love the chats that they had. It was class to see them warming up again. Craig Bryson, David Nugent, Bradley Johnson, who plays for us, kind of, and Martin Waghorn. I mean, I thought Bryson looked like he couldn't run anymore, which was quite funny. Thought, David Nugent actually looked the best out of all of them. I thought he looked all right, Dave, if you fancy a game. Waghorn, who looked like, I thought the fact he came on early made me think that was his trial. I thought that might have been his, and I thought he was pretty dire, so I don't think he did very well to win himself a contract there, if so. And Jono's just class, isn't he? Callum, what did you make of the Fantastic Four?
It kind of added to the nostalgia everyone's been calling us since we've been doing signs, retirement FC, and it was just when you look at it was great to see, and it was really nice to see that obviously Stoke got on board with it all. Obviously, yes, it was all for Fozzie, it was for nostalgia reasons, and it was nice that each of them had, for their own reasons, got a kind of little send-off that they didn't get when they each left the club. Bryson left in the circumstances he did, Waghorn left during COVID, Nugent kind of just passed by, and as I say, Bradley Johnson was the same. So you kind of looked at it and gone, it was just a nice way of just all the fans who were there just be able to go, thanks very much for your service, and actually send him off in person and give the ovation that they all deserved. And I love the kitman at the club. I think he deserves a pay rise after the idea that he did, because I think those shirts, if they're not going for charity, will be obviously highly sought after.
I tell you what, the bitterness of Forest fans about Bryson's shirt is hilarious. I don't know how it's upset them so much.
Fishing, aren't they?
He's clearly joking. They're like, "Well, you're actually in League One now." No way. You reckon? What did you think, Chris? What did you think?
Oh, no, it was really good to see. And I just bet they were relieved that none of the four of them were on that Spanish trip. I mean, can you imagine? It looked like Bryson needed it, to be fair, bless him. But no, I still think Fozzie deserved a little bit better than Stoke, but hey ho, it's gone now. It was a really good day. And I really, really pray, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Warne's going to be looking back that far. Bradley Johnson's come in as a coach mainly. People saying, Martin Waghorn needs to come back for a last hurrah. No, thanks.
No.
He was, he will be remembered for working hard and scoring that penalty for us against Wednesday. But yeah. Let's leave bygones as bygones. Thank you very much. But yeah, Forest fans, they confuse me, that bunch. They really do. It was just a bit of a laugh in a pre-season game. Go and worry about Man City and Liverpool away. Don't worry about us against Stoke in July. Get a life, lads. Come on.
If they can reduce the number of 6-0s they face next season, I'm sure they'll be happy.
Exactly. Let's focus. They should focus on their achievements. Let us focus on ours. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll be happy. They signed Willian, didn't they? Or so I was told. Yeah, they should be jealous. We've got Collins, mate. We've got Collins.
Yeah.
One last thing before we go on to Sheffield United. Ryan John has put, do you think we're missing a feisty midfielder? With Hurahan, Bird, etc. being in there. I think Corey Smith can be that. I do agree with you, Ryan. I was chatting to my dad about this. I do think that we could probably do with one more, I'd say. I think in that holding midfield position, you've sort of got, the three of them, and that's it. Liam Thompson can't play that role. You've obviously got Sibley that can play the slightly further forward one. So, yeah, I do agree with you. I think we could do with one, even if it's just for rotation. But right, let's get into Sheffield United. Now they're a team that are having a very, very weird time at the minute. One of my best mates supports Sheffield United, and they've not made many signings. They've got up to the Prem. They're predicted to finish either bottom or second bottom, thanks to Luton's even weirder signings. Adam, what do you reckon?
I think it's going to be the tough. Well, it is the toughest pre-season. That's not an understatement. I'm stating the obvious there when I say that. But I think it's going to be a good run out. And once again, Paul Warne should probably look at putting out a team like he has done. That is mirroring the start of the season. It's just about getting minutes in legs, isn't it? And against such a good opposition in terms of the test it's going to be. Because I think Sheffield United will have the same mindset. They're going to be wanting to implement their game plan for their opening game. And I think it's just going to be a tough game. Probably a loss if they go out pretty strong.
That's the spirit.
Yeah. Getting back into the normal Derby County mindset now. Best start getting back into this. But I think it's going to be a good competitive game. And I'm interested to see whether Kane Wilson maybe even gets a start. That's probably my main thought. And see how many of the young lads get into that team.
Well, exactly. And Chris, I mean, Warne's come out and he said the likes of Washington, Barkhazen should be fit as well. Would you like him to shuffle it round a bit, give a few minutes to those that have missed a lot of pre-season?
Possibly. I mean, it is important to bear in mind that Sheffield United, if they've got a week longer than us, they start the weekend after, don't they? So I don't think they'll be ready for their first 11. A proper run out for the first team for the first game of the season. But yeah, I think that's what pre-season games are for. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. You want to get minutes under your belt. I think the week between Sheffield United and the Wigan game, that will be when there'll be a lot less emphasis on fitness at training and a lot more on actual set pieces and getting their shape right. But just on Sheffield United, you just say we don't usually talk about other leagues, but I do think it is the weakest Premier League for a long, long time. When you look at the likes of Sheffield United and Luton and Bournemouth and obviously Forest, and the strongest championship season that we've ever had, potentially. And I, for one, am actually quite pleased we're not in there. That's for next season. But yeah, I think Sheffield United would be a good test. They're still a few weeks away from their prime. But if we can get a good performance, it's all about confidence now, isn't it? I think fitness is there already. So yeah, let's see how it goes, and hopefully a clean sheet will be fantastic, and another goal for Collins, and hopefully Washington getting on the score sheet. Happy days.
Well, exactly. And you've mentioned the Prem and the Championship there. I think we'll obviously save it for next week when we do the season preview. But I think League One looks pretty weak at the minute as well. Not to tempt fate, touch wood, all of that sort of stuff. Right, Callum, you kick us off, mate. I want a score prediction and I want goal scorers.
I will go 1-0 Derby, and I'll go Collins hype train. I'll go Collins.
Good stuff, Adam.
Getting back into the regular Derby County spirit. 3-1 Sheffield United. Colin scores a nice cross goal that Ward set up. We'll be able to talk about that. So yeah, 3-1 Sheffield United, unfortunately.
What about you, Chris?
I'm going to stick to what I said, actually. 2-0 Washington and Collins to score.
Good stuff. I'm going to say 2-0, Bogle own goal, Low own goal. And a good end to pre-season. But right, lads, it's been an absolute pleasure. We've had so much to talk about. This episode's gone on forever. What is it on now? Like 43 minutes. So sorry to everyone for it being so long today. We've just got about 100 talking points. You should see my notes. There's usually only about 4, and I've got about 2 pages worth here. If you did enjoy and watched on video, you can check out the audio stuff. It's on Spotify, Apple Pods, all of that stuff. If you enjoyed the audio, want to check out the video, you can catch us live at 7 o'clock-ish every Sunday on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, wherever. And yeah, get involved on Twitter at RamsTalkPod or RamsTalkPodcast. You can find it pretty much everywhere. So right, lads, big 3-0 win. 1 pre-season game before the season. Cheers, lads. Up the Rams.
Cheers, boys. And just a quick one. Make